Hello, welcome back to the internet. So I figured it's about time we switch things up a little bit again. So for now at least, we're just going to be doing the questions. Today starting with, what was the best moment you've seen where the real world hit a spoiled rich kid? While working in a casino here in Las Vegas, a herd of girls came to my window, and one proceeded to tell me about her great birthday party itinerary that her dad had paid for her 18th birthday, with no adult in the party. Just a bunch of teenage girls out in Vegas, where none of them could do anything because none of them were 21. I couldn't even check them into their reservation. They started yelling and screaming at me. I calmly called security, and security tells them that they can either go play in the arcade or leave and try and find a hotel off the strip that will take them in without being 21. The anger turns to tears, and the security guard is unmoved. I mean, Vegas can be a pretty fun place, but not for an 18th birthday party. Maybe a 21st birthday party. I mean, there's all the talk about, like, anything goes in Vegas, but you gotta remember, you get ID'd to do just about anything while in Vegas. I grew up with rich kids, and still keep in touch with a few of them. One guy's father owned the most prestigious law firm in town. He said his life changed the moment he called his father from jail. The second time it happened, his father said, "Well, sorry to hear you got arrested. Good luck," then hung up. He said getting locked back into his cell was the singular moment that completely turned his life around. Man, I've noticed in a lot of videos that I have, like, stray hairs. I mean, look at this friggin' thing. But hey, sometimes there are at least decent parents above entitled kids. Sometimes. I knew this rich kid from high school that went off to college and partied every single night. His parents found out that he was failing basically all of his classes, so they secretly drove up early one Saturday morning with the spare set of keys to the car they had bought him, and just drove off with the car. Man, that's gotta be a fun phone call. It's like, "Mom, Dad, somebody stole my car." And they're just like, "Yeah, we know." A rich guy in our college dorm thought he was untouchable because his dad was some NFL player from the 90s and had not blown all his money yet. He would get freshman girls blackout drunk and then film himself doing them and then show all his buddies the next day or so. Well, one buddy was not as close as he thought and went to the RA, who then went to campus police and then the real police. It was a fun night watching the parking lot fill up with bored cops on duty that night and haul his butt out of the dorms while they went and gathered his evidence. I mean, I don't get how rich you are. Like, why would you ever be confident that you could just get away with breaking the law and leaving a bunch of evidence around? I mean, Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Administration and faculty at a university refused a substantial offer of endowment money from a couple that wanted their son enrolled as an art major. Their son couldn't meet the minimum scholastic entrance requirements, and he had little aptitude for art. Still, with their millions, he thought money would buy his way to an easy degree as an art major. He was dumbfounded to receive a notice of non-admittance. I mean, I get that a lot of people want to have a degree just, like, for the prestige of it and to say that they did it. But if you're already super rich, why blow all the time and money on going to school for a useless degree? I knew a guy in high school who bragged that he didn't even have to pay attention in school because, get this, his grandfather was a vice president of the corporation that supplied the cardboard for cereal boxes for General Mills. Real gravy train, you know? Last I checked, he was still working at Best Buy for 5 years after high school. Same job he had in high school. Okay, first of all, not every business owner or like business president or vice president or anything like that really means that they're like rich or even going to be rich. And second of all, where do people get into the mindset that's like, oh, a relative of mine got super rich, that means that I'm set for life? Like, I have never felt like just because a relative of mine made a bunch of money that somehow that meant that I had a bunch of money. Like, even if my dad got really rich right now, it probably wouldn't change my life much right now. A somewhat distant relative from Australia spent all his university years and 20s partying hard with the $100,000 to $120,000 allowance his rich company-owning father gave him each year. He'd travel the world each year going to Bali, Thailand, Europe, every year Oktoberfest, just rampaging. At 32 or so, he decided to settle in somewhere in the resort area of the US Rockies and open a business with his hot gold digger fiancée. When he went to transfer his money to his US bank account, he noticed it only came to a few $1,000s. He angrily asked the bank worker why she hadn't transferred the entire amount, only to be told that that was the entire amount. His father had cut him off without saying anything, and he just hadn't noticed. Absolute flatline. You know, if life was a game, then people who are born rich basically just get to use cheat codes. That's pretty much how it goes. I had a roommate my freshman year of college that came from an incredibly rich oil family from the Middle East. I remember him having the hardest time adjusting to not having someone else prepare him food. I remember waking up one morning and going to the kitchen, and seeing him try to eat eggs and toast he had just prepared himself. He asked me how I normally prepare fried eggs because his tasted really crunchy. Turns out he had just cracked the egg whole into the pan and prepared it, shell and all. I couldn't stop laughing, but felt really bad for the dude. Alright, I take back what I just said in that last statement about people using cheat codes. In reality, it's almost like some form of an abuse when someone grows up so spoiled that they just learn no skills for themselves. Because life's not going to be that easy forever. My best moment was when I got hired by a pair of Woodside, California parents to transition their horrible 18-year-old into the realities of real life. Something that evaded both of them. My first action was to take away his platinum, limitless credit cards. He threw a tantrum that lasted several days. Where am I going to get money? Get a job. My parents will fire you. They didn't. When he realized that boundaries and budgets had been set in stone, and that he not only had to pay the bills, the rent, but taxes too, he headed straight to college to wait out the next 4 years. He's still a little jerk, but at least he has a job and an education now. Man, some of these people seem like, remember that whole saying, like the customer is always right? It's like they feel like the child is always right. Anything they say, their parents will just take care of. One of my college roommates told his parents the trip we were planning, that they were paying for, was $400 more expensive than it was, so he could buy a really nice bong. In addition, they basically paid for everything he wanted. He had their credit card and ordered food on it at least once daily. He also would make $50 purchases off the card pretty regularly. Long story short, they found out he lied about the cost of the trip. For whatever reason, they still paid and let him go. But after the trip, he could not use their card anymore. This dude acted like he lived the hardest life of all time afterwards, but eventually sucked it up. He actually acts way less entitled now. It ended up having a lasting positive effect for him, even though he wouldn't admit it. See, I have no problem with people being very wealthy. You know, if somebody has $100 billion, I say, good for you, I hope you're happy with it, have fun with it. In my opinion, it's only really a problem when they act like they are superior to everyone who doesn't make a lot of money, or they feel like they're just too good to live an average lifestyle. Like, it really helps when people were actually poor at one time in their life, and then they actually appreciate the money they earn. At a Starbucks, and she thought apparently people gave her parents free drinks and such for her all these years. Like, the cashier told her the total, and she said, "What, I don't get it for free?" She never realized her parents swiping their cards all those years was paying for her things, I guess. This doesn't sound like so much of a rich kid thing. This is just somebody just never being taught about money. No joke here. Back in high school, in the 90s, this kid got a brand new Chevy Camaro. I had an old 80s Pontiac Phoenix that had the straight six. It was by far not a racing car, but this tool was just looking to brag at what he got compared to the busted cars we got. About 2 days later, while we were waiting at a stoplight, this idiot tries to race us, as I'm in my car and I pull up with my friends. He starts by revving it really loud and tries to do a burnout. Mind you, the light was red and the roads were not wet, so he managed to get a tiny burnout going. Some smoke and whatnot. When his tires did not catch traction, he went barreling into the intersection and smashed the car of the wife of one of the very few cops in my small city. Needless to say, that did not work out for him very well. I think this happened in Back to the Future. Nothing too serious, but I taught at an international school in Africa, and we would take the high school students camping 1 week out of the year. Many of these kids are not used to camping at all, and have never even taken public transport. They have full-time drivers bring them to school and pick them up. Some of them are from very wealthy and politically connected families, having to set up tents and get dirty, not be able to shower every day, and sleep on the hard ground is new to them. Some of them actually love it, but others are sad, pathetic wretches the entire week. You know, just because you don't have to live a hard life, doesn't mean that you shouldn't be prepared to do so. When I was a teenager, my sister and I saw through our windows that there were 2 guys getting into her car. We ran downstairs as fast as possible and caught them in the act. One managed to run away, but the other one froze and didn't run away. He couldn't have been much older than me. My sister called the cops, and the kid kept looking at us, trying to find a way to escape. My sister said, "Run if you want, my brother will catch you." The cops came, and so did his parents. His mom drove a freaking amazing car, and the lady looked furious and sad. She was dressed really nice and looked like she was pretty successful. As soon as she got out, she began yelling, "Why? We give you everything. You have everything. Why would you try and steal? Don't we give you enough?" The kid just seemed to shrink and get smaller. I don't get it. Freaking a-hole. I hope he turned his life around and began to be around better people. Yeah, in a case like that, it doesn't seem like that's somebody who's looking to gain anything from stealing other than maybe some clout or reputation or experience. A kid I knew won a cool $1 million off a scratch ticket when he was 19. Acted like a big shot, arrogantly buying rounds of drinks for entire bars, didn't do crap for 20 years. Then got the last check. Alcoholic, no savings, no assets, no skills. He's now in and out of hospitals for alcohol poisoning and mental breakdowns. Lost his paper hat job, his girlfriend, everything. I mean, this is why they say most people who win the lottery don't end up very happy. A kid from my high school came from a well-known family that was very involved in politics. He slacked off in school and was mostly a condescending butt for years. After graduation, he didn't really do anything, but eventually decided to run for office, as he had the same name as his father. He won easily because people didn't realize it was the kid. As a state rep, he posted on Facebook about enjoying his woman battered rather than plain, and asking to join the Black Caucus because he liked hip-hop. He also dropped a loaded gun on the floor in the middle of a session after fighting for the right to carry a gun in the state house as a responsible gun owner. He kept getting elected despite these issues because his family was well connected and had a dedicated following from some political groups. After 6 years in office, he gets busted for soliciting sex from a minor over the internet. When they arrest him for that, they also discover he's been dealing drugs. The worst part is that his family is actually super nice and genuinely made the community a better place. But now they have to deal with all the issues from him. He was an apple that fell very far from the tree. You know, I really don't like it when full families get involved in politics. I'll just leave it at that. For a couple of years in high school, I went to this super expensive American private school in Switzerland. The company my dad worked for paid for almost all the tuition, so it was an amazing opportunity for me. Most of the kids in this school were either State Department or from American families living in Saudi. There were, however, a few Saudi kids that were there, mostly so that they would be able to speak flawless English to help out their future careers. One of these kids, who I will call the Prince, was somewhere in the line of Saudi succession, but honestly, he was like 1,455th in the line of the throne. Not a real contender for king, but his family was rich. Like rich in a way that most of us can't even imagine. This school had some rules, like you couldn't have a car as a student, even if you were old enough to get a license in Switzerland. This rule was a real buzzkill for the prince, but he made it through the year somehow. Over the summer after his junior year, he drove back to the school from Geneva in his Lambo, probably just because he could do it outside the school year. On his way up the mountain, he managed to flip his Lambo into a vineyard while trying to navigate one of those hairpin turns. I'm guessing a Lambo has a lot of power, and he took it too hard. His parents, furious at what he had done, decided to punish him by replacing his Lambo with a Porsche. And the prince was so angry. He complained about it bitterly when the school year started up again. The rest of us kinda just joked at each other in amazement. Same planet, different worlds, I guess. Why is it always a Lambo? Why don't these people ever buy McLarens? They're much cooler. I'm trying to be the better man and not take delight in anyone's misfortune, but the rich kid in my high school totaled his pickup truck. Got pissed when his parents wouldn't replace it, so he purposely crashed his twin brother's pickup truck, because if he couldn't have one, neither could the brother. Not to mention all the legal stuff that I'm sure was fallout from doing that. Anyways, kid disappeared. I assumed he went to jail or some equivalent. Found out recently that no, he didn't actually. His parents literally disowned him, like with the paperwork and everything, and sent him on his way to fend for himself. And I have no idea how his life turned out. Well, I don't suppose I have too many ultra-wealthy viewers on this channel. But hopefully more people will realize that the more you spoil your kids, the less they actually learn. Now I think it's time I just end the video before I get too preachy, because I've already done that way too much for one video. So, thanks for watching. Whoa. You're the master. Oh my god, delicious. You look tired.